The financial system, it's complex, it's convoluted, and it is impossible to understand. As you saw during the financial crisis, there were people hired as PhDs to be creating complex derivatives using formulas that literally nobody could understand and basing quote unquote investments around them. Today, we look back and see how foolish that really was. The interesting part is that it's still going on today. Now, things may have shifted. We might have gone away from the collateralized debt obligations to some degree, but instead we move forward with the collateralized loan obligations. And instead of the mortgage-backed securities for residential properties, we have gone to the commercial mortgage-backed securities for these commercials, retail, multifamily, and so on. Things aren't necessarily the same, but for all intents and purposes, it truly is. Today, I want to highlight on what I covered in yesterday's video, continuing on directly. In fact, the information went on so long, I split the video in two. So what you're about to see is directly connected to yesterday's video. If you haven't seen that already, definitely watch it. I will link to it at the end of this video. It's extremely important to watch both of these, preferably in that order, but either way, there's so much that I needed to cover, so I wanted to bring that to you here. Glad you're here for the truth. Let's get into it right away. Microsoft is allowing more of its employees to work from home permanently, the company announced on Friday. The software maker has unveiled a hybrid workplace guidance internally to allow for far greater flexibility once US offices eventually reopen. Essentially, they can get approval to work from home even after people start going back to the offices. So they probably won't be required in many cases, depending on what their role is. The reason I mention this is because it connects in with what I brought up at the beginning. If you no longer need all of that space, what do you think is going to happen? You might have one of these big towers and they've got, 10 floors here. And let's say Microsoft occupies, the top several floors, but there's a few floors down here. What's going to happen if you suddenly only need, a few of these floors become empty? Their lease is up. They don't renew now. Are these people down here going to expand? Maybe, but probably going in the same direction as Microsoft. Are you going to have somebody new from the outside coming in? Why? The rents are extremely high. So what happens to these once occupied floors that money was coming in through and now no longer is? Well, there is a shortfall. Remember, somebody has to pay for this building. And if the expenses aren't being paid for, suddenly people are going bankrupt. Businesses are going bankrupt, and interconnected with that, commercial mortgage-backed securities. This is the way that I see things. I would really like to harp on about this issue in a separate video entirely, just what I see as the biggest dangers to the system today. If you would like to know that, please let me know in the comment section. On the other end of the spectrum, the island brokers are overwhelmed. We've got people with more money than ever before, and you can read this article, but essentially what it's saying is you got a bunch of rich people that are looking to buy islands right now, and they have seemingly an endless supply of cash, and they are going all over the place. They're going to the Bahamas, they're going to the South Pacific, they want the space, and they want what they believe is safety and security. It just shows you today that there's clearly two factions that have formed. And I can't go a video without mentioning the Federal Reserve. Here is Charles Evans from the Fed in this particular interview here, basically talking about what's happening with interest rates. We're talking about the money printing as well. And here you can see what he had to say. We say we're going to keep the funds rate at an effective lower bound, 0 to 0.25%, until we see labor conditions closer to maximum employment and inflation gets up to 2% is on track to overshoot. You remember that? Powell said it a million times. But then there's this. If things were somewhat worse, if the recovery was slower, I think we'd still be having interest rates at the 0 lower bound, but I think we'd also be following it up with more asset reset the purchases, hoping that there would be more fiscal support as well. So look for this right now. If the situation doesn't get better, the Federal Reserve will always be in favor of more and more QE. They also want this fiscal support from the government side. They want stimulus of all kinds. Bernanke at PIMCO Investment Forum, quote, "It's not clear to me that stock prices are wildly overvalued. I don't understand where this guy gets the nerve, the audacity, the bravery to lie to everybody's face. He did this throughout his entire career. The only time he was telling the truth was that 2002 speech that I've quoted many, many times before." It's so ridiculous to have to hear this, and then it gets repeated often over and over again as the truth. World Food Price Index rise 5% year on year in September. This is going to hurt people as individuals. They are, especially in the bottom 50%, dealing with an increase in the price that they pay on basically everything right now. 5% might not seem like a lot, but it certainly hits home with people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and that happens to be a lot of people today. So check this out. Manhattan apartments haven't been this cheap to rent since 2013. This has been a complete 180 from what we were seeing last year. Huge differences, huge changes have occurred. I just wanted to bring this up with you, show you what's been happening with real estate, because it is definitely not one-sided today, that's for sure. And then we have this article here talking about ESPN. Apparently, they're going to be laying off a lot of people. This is another industry that has certainly taken a hit. There was initially this huge reaction with trying to get sports back on, but those that have come back on haven't seen the ratings that they were seeing previously. So it is a rather unique experience. And I think a lot of these businesses are going to have to change. All right, I'm going to end the video there. If you found it informative, hit that thumbs up button. When you do, you are supporting me simply by clicking that one button. You help me out. Thank you very much. If you want to learn how to sell stuff online, you want to make money through e-commerce, or you just want to understand the skill, you can do so for free, the AmazonGPS.com. The financial system, it's complex, it's convoluted, it is often difficult to understand. But if you read these two books, you will be able to ask the right questions. Check them out at the link in the description. If you want the audiobook instead, themoneygps.com. Wait a second, don't go anywhere. Definitely watch this video if you haven't already. Check it out. I'll see you there.